meantime, Zeus has recalled all the gods to Olympus, where their reunion occasions much joy and merrymaking. He too, in a lonely hour, beneath the starlit sky, has by a dread vision been reminded of Inaki's supremacy, and he now, half jestingly, half seriously offers a prize for an answer to the very question which once was put to him. What is the purpose of this world? With playful rather than bitter irony, the poet reports, quote, of plausible solutions were offered not a few, each soothing to the heart, except it was not true, end quote. And with equal playfulness, the poet lets Aphrodite win the prize. She, with roguish glance and flippant tongue, had pronounced herself to be the only purpose of existence. After some meditation, Zeus accepts her answer, though he gives it a wider and deeper sense than Aphrodite had intended. Quote, though not an edifying thought, methinks 'tis it true, life's greatest boon is this, illusion's form and hue, end quote. The love and cult of beauty alone can lift us above the wretchedness of existence, even though what we call beauty be but a fair illusion. We are vividly reminded of Schopenhauer's philosophy, in which likewise an intellectual pessimism is offset by an aesthetic imaginativeness so grandiose that his teachings have been a source of inspiration rather than gloom. Nor is it difficult to name a poet of kindred spirit, as Spitteler's profound sympathy with suffering creation reminds us of his friend Whitman's Saint and Beast. So Zeus' final answer to his own inquiry into the purpose of the world is quite in keeping with the pathetic farewell greeting of the dying king in the Whitman's May Beatles comedy, who forgives the world its cruelty because it was so fair. That this, however, is not our poet's only answer, we know from the heroic tales of the festival era, above all from that of Apollo's glorious flight to Metacosmos, that in Inaki's world there is such a thing as nobility of soul, unselfishness of endeavor, and that in this rests mankind's salvation, not indeed from its doom, but from self-contempt, is brought out plainly again in the conclusion of the poem. Zeus has found mankind a mass of gullible fools, blind to real greatness and merit, easily swayed to stone today whom yesterday they acclaimed. Like Hera, but with better reason than she, he is filled with anger and loathing and determines to wipe this vermin off the face of the earth. The prayers of goddesses and gods are of no avail, but a dream which once more reveals the pitiful plight of all creation and threatens him with Inaki's wrath changes his purpose, and now, at last, he bethinks himself of his real duty as God supreme. From Genesis, the pond of unborn souls, he summons the noblest and bravest and purest one. It is Heracles. Him he trains to be the champion of all that is lofty and true, and to defy fate itself. Then he sends him down to the earth of man, where he is needed. The one reward which Zeus holds out to him is that of fame. He offers him a farewell draught from the spring of truth and bids him remember Zeus's friendship when dark days shall come. Unafraid, Heracles starts on his journey, acclaimed by joyous shouts full of youthful ardor and hope. But Hera, in her hatred of that very humanity in which she is the cruel queen, is not willing to let Zeus have his will. On the wanderer on whom Zeus has set such high hopes, she inflicts the curse of persecution on earth, of hopes blasted, of bitter disappointment, But when this dreadful prospect leaves, Herakles was aggrieved, to be sure, but not discouraged. The goddess, angered by her failure to humiliate him, adds the still greater curse of human frailty. Endowed with a foolish heart, he shall become ridiculous in his own sight and in that of his fellow men by slavish cravings for women's favor. This time the young hero recoils. He appeals to her generosity to heap every other curse upon him, but to spare him the blush of shame. Gloating over her success and humbling his proud heart, Hera departs. Now Heracles turns to Zeus in prayer. Then, firm of purpose once more, willing to suffer all for the sake of truth, he wends his way towards the earth to which Zeus sends him. Joseph Victor Widman, Spitteler's loyal friend, and the first to recognize and proclaim the grandeur of Olympian spring, has this to say of epic poetry: that the great epics of world literature have all been a reflection not of prior ages, but of each poet's own day, and that in their giving expression to the wishes and hopes, the joys and sorrows of the poet's own living age, lies their appeal to all eternity. This is true in fullest measure of Spitteler's Olympian spring. To be sure, our all too realistic age has become somewhat unaccustomed and averse to what Matthew Arnold, in speaking of Homer, calls the grand style. But Spitteler has demonstrated once more that there is a higher realism which calls for a higher form. To quote Widman again, we need the great epic because besides the good, we must have the best. 1,000 novels cannot take its place. There must be houses to live in, to be sure, but there must also be Cologne cathedrals.